Good morning. I will now call to order the June 16, 2022 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today. Clerk to the Board, Tony Mayernick. County Counsel, Stephen Madcor. Commissioner Fisher is at an Association of Oregon Counties event and will not be here today. Commissioner Savas is at a Regional Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation meeting and will be delayed but will be here shortly. With that, roll call. Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Orders will be enforced during this business meeting. We welcome your polite comments and look forward to your polite participation. I'm going to read a statement on the election's next steps. The primary election results were officially certified on June 13, and we are grateful to all the Clackamas County employees, election staff, and temporary election workers who helped accomplish that goal. 607 county employees worked in elections. That number represents over 6,700 employee hours. And my hat is off to those employees and those who stayed back in their office jobs to deliver services to the rest of the county. I have met. Moving forward, the county is 100% committed to minimizing the risk that an election's failure could happen again. I want to be transparent about what that means. I have met with the clerk and provided the county's procurement and financial support to, number one, select a new ballot printer. Number two, upgrade outdated equipment to ensure state-of-the-art systems are in place. Number three, upgrade necessary software. It is also essential that quality control testing with printed ballots be substantially improved before future elections. All of this will be expedited so that our next election in August can be carried out without interruption. I also expect the clerk to conduct a thorough review of her operations and decisions following this last primary election, as well as her full cooperation with the audits requested by the Secretary of State. I expect her findings to be presented to the full Board of County Commissioners as soon as those are completed. Thank you all very much. Gary, what's up next?
First item, Chair, is the Housing Authority consent agenda. Would you please convene as the Housing Authority Board?
I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority Board.
Joining us is Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra, who is online. Ann, are you here today?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Tony, would you please read the Housing Authority consent agenda?
Of course, just one moment. For the Housing Authority of Clackamas County, there are two items. Number one, approval of Housing Authority of Clackamas County Board Order to write off uncollectible debt for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2021-2022. Fiscal impact is $21,652.43 in total collection losses. No county general funds are involved. Item two, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Home Forward to provide resident services and supportive housing case management at Tukwila Springs. Agreement value is $2,590,585.28 over approximately 5 years. Funded through Supportive Housing Services Funds. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you very much. Does any commissioner wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? I will entertain a motion. Ann?
I move that we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda as read by the clerk.
Second.
Commissioner Ann Leenstra has moved for approval of the Housing Authority consent agenda, been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Is there any further discussion on these items? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Leenstra,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much, Ann.
Thank you.
I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and convene as a Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Thank you, Chair. Next are two board discussion items. We will begin with the appointment of the county assessor. I will be the presenter, but I will ask if Tammy Little and Bronson Rueda would please come forward so we could honor you while I say nice things about you both. So, Commissioners, as you know, Clackamas County Assessor Tammy Little has announced her retirement as assessor effective June 30, 2022. Per state statute, the Board of County Commissioners will appoint a person to fulfill the duties of county assessor until the next regular election. This also happens to be an election year, and Bronson Rueda, who is the current deputy assessor since 2019 at Clackamas County, is the single candidate for county assessor, and he has won his election outright in the May 2022 primary. However, he does not take office until January 2023. So, per recommendation by staff, and Board, you actually already talked about this a few weeks ago, our recommendation is that you appoint Bronson Rueda to fill the vacancy of county assessor between July 1st, 2022, and until January 2023 when he formally takes office as the elected county assessor. So that's what we're proposing for you today. Before you vote, I would ask if Tammy would like to say a few words, and then Bronson, if you'd like to say a few words, and then the board can have a discussion.
I would like to. Thank you, Gary. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So good morning, everyone. Chair Smith, commissioners, I really appreciate being here today as you consider the request to appoint Bronson Rueda as the county assessor when I retire on June 30th. It's been a real honor for me to serve these past little over 4 years as the assessor, and also a big part of my life and a great pleasure to have been part of the assessment and taxation department here at Clackamas County for over 38 years. And while this is a little bittersweet for me to leave a job that I really love, I'm very excited to transition into my retirement. And I'm also really excited for Bronson. And I'm confident in his appointment to this position. His experience and background has prepared him well for property tax administration. He has all of the qualifications required to be the county assessor. And he came to us from the Oregon Department of Revenue a little over 3 years ago. And he has done just a great job as our deputy assessor. And I believe that he will go forward doing a great job as well as the assessor. And I highly recommend the board approve the order to formally appoint Bronson Rueda as the Clackamas County Assessor effective July 1.
Thank you very much for that. Bronson, would you like to mention anything, say anything?
Yes, please. Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners, and County Administrator Schmidt. I'm humbled to be before you today on the verge of being appointed Clackamas County Assessor. I'm also excited to lead the A&T Department in the administration of Oregon's property tax system. As the assessor, I look forward to working with all of you, other county assessors and tax collectors, the Oregon Department of Revenue, all Clackamas County departments, and the assessment and taxation staff. There is no way I would be in this position without the help, guidance, and expertise of many individuals. That list is too extensive to review in detail, but I do want to put a spotlight on all the staff, supervisors, and managers in the assessment and taxation department. In my 3 years with the county, they have been welcoming and eager to answer all my questions. Without their help, I would not be where I am today, and my success is owed to them. Finally, I want to fine-tune the spotlight on Tammy. She has been a superb mentor and leader, guiding me through the intricacies of my position and allowing me to grow as a leader. I am truly thankful to you, Tammy.
Thank you, Bronson.
If appropriate to say, I will accept your approval of the board order appointing me to Clackamas County Assessor as of July 1st, 2022.
Great. Tammy, you mentioned in my office a while back, to be an assessor, you need certain qualifications. Is that right? Just briefly say what those are.
Well, let's see, you have to have worked in the assessment and taxation field. I may ask you to help me because he's filled out the form more recently than I have. You have to be registered with the state of Oregon as an appraiser. You have to have, management experience, a certain number of years, and a background in this field of work.
Okay.
Am I missing anything?
Anything else, Bronson, you want to say about your qualifications?
He's got some educational qualifications.
Yeah, would you mention those, please?
Sure. So if you want me to go all the way back, I was born in 1971,
Yeah.
but I won't
Not quite
go
that
that far.
Just the education. Okay.
Right. So my qualifications include 9 years as a commercial fee appraiser. I was served 8 years at the Oregon Department of Revenue, where I was licensed as a commercial appraiser, and those qualifications launched me into this position, and that is basically what qualifies me for this position. Continuing education as required by the Department of Revenue also to maintain my license.
Yeah, we have required continuing
Are
education
those like
requirements.
certificate programs?
It is. So there's two different types of appraisers. There's fee appraisers that do commercial work and residential work. If you're going to buy a house, you would order an appraisal, and that would be a fee appraiser. But county appraisers have to be certified by the Oregon Department of Revenue, and that's a different certification. You have to take a test, you have to take classes, and then you get your certification, and then you renew it every 2 years with continuing education courses.
Excellent. And I do appreciate that very much, that you're up on the duties of the job. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Tammy, to all your years of service, and thanks for being such a good friend and colleague. I remember you and Bob Roman working together, and wow, it's going to be hard to see you go, but I also want to say to our new assessor, welcome. I think you're you're very well qualified, and I will speak for myself, and I think my colleagues will agree. We really look forward to working with you as we move forward with Clackamas County in the 21st century. Right. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, on behalf of the people of Clackamas County, Tammy Little, I would like to thank you for your 38 years of service to this county. I really appreciate that, and the people of the county appreciate that. And to Bronson Rueda, I've observed you for over 16 months now, and I've been impressed with your professionalism. I'm confident that you're going to do a great job as the county tax assessor. Thank you for stepping up to take on that responsibility. Thank you.
I would agree with both my colleagues' statements. Tammy, I've enjoyed working with you. Thank you for your years of service. Bronson, we welcome you to come on board. I will now entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the board order appointing Bronson Rueda as the county assessor to fill a vacancy.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has made the motion to appoint Bronson Rueda as the new county assessor. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motions passes 3-0. Thank you very much. Welcome to your duties, and we look forward to working with you.
All right, thank you very much.
Great. Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next board discussion item is approval of a resolution adopting changed fees for Clackamas County for fiscal year 2022-2023. Fiscal impact is $215,970 in additional revenue. Funding is through user fees. No county general funds are involved. Stephen Madcore, County Counsel, will present.
Thank you, Gary. Morning, Commissioners. All charges imposed by the county are approved by this board. That means fines, fees, taxes, anything that the county charges, this board approves. Annually, this board reviews fines and fees. We also review taxes too. You did that during the budget. But fines and fees comes before you every June. Its effective date is typically in July 1st is when we have it effective. What you have before you is a package of new, increased, in some cases eliminated and or decreased fines and fees for county services. The majority of these are for parks purposes. There's a revamping of the parks fee structure for Barton Park and Carver Park and other parks that the county runs, not North Clackamas Parks and Rec, but the county park system. You also have some increases in dog services, and those are based on increased fees, costs for impoundment, and other services that dog services provides. You have some increases proposed by the law library, overdue notices, copying charges, things along those lines, relatively nominal. You also have some increases coming out of DTD for building and planning permits and things along those lines. So this would be fines and fees starting July 1st, continuing onward. Typically, again, every year we do it. And if the board were to say no to these, then the current fee structure would remain. But the departments have presented to you individually over the course of the last few months and proposed the bases for their fee restructuring. And this is all in a package before you today. And if adopted, it would be an ordinance and it'd be effective July 1st. I'm here to try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Madcore. The scrub of the fees, I understand they were done with kind of a judicial look at fees, and that the increased fees are truly needed. In other words, the fee increases reflected in this document, the increases are absolutely needed with no extra fat. In other words, without this increase, some of the departments would struggle to meet costs of some of the administrative responsibilities in their departments. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner, I believe that would be a fair assessment on and characterization across the board on all of these fees.
And is it true that there was a intent to identify any fees that are no longer required and have been dropped off this? I noticed by the red line on the document that there's dozens and dozens of fees that have been omitted or reduced. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner, absolutely. If it wasn't deemed necessary by the department, it was proposed to be repealed.
Right, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Savas, we're at the bottom of page 2, and we are considering the fee increase portion that we had a policy session on earlier. Stephen Madcore has just made his presentation, and we are in discussion of that presentation right now. Do you have any comments you'd like to make or questions?
Well, thank you, Chair. Sorry I'm late. I had a JPAC meeting and some other things going on I had to do before I left the House. So I was not in attendance when you all discussed this. I forgot where I was that particular day. So I tried actually yesterday, late yesterday, to start go back and watching some of the tapes of the meetings I missed, and I didn't get this far, so I was not part of that discussion.
Okay.
So I don't feel totally. I understand that there were some. If I understand correctly, that it was broken out at the work session in the votes for separate fees from separate issues, but I didn't have a chance to follow up on that meeting. I got a couple weeks back.
That's fine.
But I didn't go back to the third or fourth week, which you all discussed that.
I am, Gary, I'm going to move to set this over for next week. I don't believe there's the votes to pass this today. I am not in support of fee increases. Commissioner Savas, and maybe possibly Commissioner Fisher, who is not in attendance today, may need some more time for review on this. So let's remove this from the agenda on a vote, but I have commissioners who would like to make comments.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, I just want to ask Mr. Madcore, this includes fee decreases as well as increases, correct?
Yes, and
Yeah,
some
okay.
being stricken as well. As Commissioner Scholl pointed out, there are some fees, especially a
Okay.
lot in the Parks Department, that are just being eliminated in their entirety as well.
Okay.
But again, to the point, these are, I mean, the direction from the board has been to try to make things as cost recovery, as cost neutral as possible. We're not making money off of these fees. It always costs more in staff time and county operations to provide these services to the public itself. So I would submit that if these weren't passed as presented, we'll probably have greater budget gaps and deficits next year when they're presented, because we're not getting in those incomes.
Thank you for that.
And
Go
I just
ahead.
want to say I agree with Chair Smith that we need to set this over for now so we can have a full commission, because it's always been doing this a long time, and it's always a touchy subject too.
So we'll set this over till next Thursday's business
And, yeah,
meeting.
we all can take another look-see at it. It's been a while since we reviewed this. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I did see some of the packet as I studied it. Some of them were very minor changes, so I see that. I did see some reductions. But what I did want to do was print that off actually and look at anything I thought would be indirect increase to the cost of housing or permitting or so forth to build housing. So I'm very mindful of that right now, very sensitive that it's already too expensive to build or permit or get anything done. So that's a huge concern. I know a lot of people that want to build like an ADU. I spoke to someone yesterday, last night about that, and he's contemplating whether or not, and possibly not because of the cost of building an ADU.
I agree 100% on that. I'm very mindful of that, too. It's just hugely sensitive because we're entering this, I feel, time of financial uncertainty in Oregon and the country with increased interest rates, inflationary pressures for food and gasoline and just across the board. So if I see no other comments on that, we're going to just move this for next week's business meeting, Gary.
Yes, will do.
Thank you very much. What's up next?
All right, next is the consent agenda. Tony, if you're ready, if you would please read the consent agenda.
Just get that pulled up, and then yes. Apologies, I'm just getting the consent agenda. There we go. All right. Starting with elected officials, item 1 for the Board of County Commissioners, approval of the June 9th, 2022 business meeting minutes. Health, Housing, and Human Services, item 1, approval of a personal services contract with Northwest Family Services for alcohol and drug pre-engagement and prevention activities, contract not to exceed $210,001. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval to apply for a grant for behavioral health housing investment funds. Grant value is $4,704,837.17. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of an amendment to a non-federal subrecipient grant agreement with Clackamas Women's Services for system diversion, homelessness prevention, and rapid rehousing services, increasing the value of the grant award for fiscal year 2021-2022. Amendment value is $40,000. Grant value is increased to $560,000. Agreement is funded by the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department. No county general funds are involved. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of a public improvement contract with Eagle Elsner Incorporated for the Boyer King Road area paving package. Contract value is $766,766. Funding is through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of a contract with Eagle Elsner Incorporated for the McLaughlin Neighborhood Paving Project. Total value is $656,656. Funding is through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Clackamas County Regional Freight Intelligent Transportation System, allowing the county to access additional federal funds to address a budget shortfall in the project. Amendment value is $395,809.95. Agreement value is now $2,512,493. Funding is through federal funds and the county road fund. No county general funds are involved. Business and Community Services, item 1, approval of a federal subrecipient grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife for the Boones Ferry Boat Ramp Dock Replacement Project. Grant value is $151,875. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you very much, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Commissioner Schrader has moved for approval of the consent agenda. Commissioner Scholl has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. We're just moving right along this agenda today. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Water Environment Services Board.
Next is the consent agenda for the Water Environment Services Board. Tony, will you please read the consent agenda?
There is one item. Approval of a personal services contract with SLR International Corporation for environmental air quality engineering consulting. Contract not to exceed $191,050 over 5 years. Funding is through Water Environment Services operating funds. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove any item from this list? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the Water Environment Services consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for the approval of the WES Services consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. I will now adjourn as the Water Environment Services Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise instructed. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public comment public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at the business meeting due to time constraints. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take the in-person first, and I see none. Is that correct, Tony?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Do we have anybody online?
Madam Chair, I do not have anyone registered online at this time. If there is anyone who would like to provide public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Okay. Well, that is the end of my list. I will now close public communication portion of this meeting, and we will move on. Gary, what's the first item you have up?
Next is a county administrator update. That's me. I always like to share good news of our county staff and our programs. Today, I'd like to share the wonderful news about the work of our Health, Housing, and Human Services team and Children, Family, and Community Connections, a division of Health, Housing, and Human Services. That division has produced mental health and suicide prevention rubber bracelets that you wear around your wrist, which support the Clackamas County Crisis and Support Line phone number. Our staff recently received a really touching message from a client last month who encountered someone who is considering suicide. In responding, this person wrote to us and said their friend had one of our bracelets, saw the number, and called the crisis line. And this person wrote, "Your wristband saved my friend's life tonight. I got her to the hospital. Thank you."
Wow.
Powerful. And that's the work of our amazing staff who had the idea of creating those bracelets with the number on it. So thank you to our Children, Family, and Community Connection staff, and also our staff who handle our crisis and support line. Next, the National Association of Counties recently sent out a report called Promoting Health and Safety Through a Behavioral Health Continuum of Care. The report highlights policies, programs, and practices that counties are implementing to support community members before, during, and after a behavioral health emergency. The National Association of Counties recognized Clackamas County's Behavioral Health Division in this report, in particular our Safe and Strong and GO teams. As you recall, we formed GO teams during the pandemic, which went out and provided psychological first aid in the community. The teams met with residents in the community to help people with early signs of emotional and social problems and to help minimize potential long-term impacts. The Clackamas Safe and Strong program was funded in part through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to provide ongoing behavioral health services during the pandemic. So both of these programs, sponsored by county and our staff, was recognized by the National Association of Counties. So bravo to our staff. Finally, Clackamas Water Environment Services, for the 5th consecutive year, is partnering with the nonprofit Solve for the Summer Waterway Cleanup Series, which kicked off at the Three Creeks Natural Area in Milwaukee last month. More than 50 volunteers removed hundreds of pounds of trash from the area. In addition to protecting our county watersheds, our cleanup volunteers also learn how trash can be carried by stormwater runoff into our waterways if not removed. Urban stormwater runoff is the leading cause of water pollution in Oregon. Thank you to our Water Environment Services staff and all the volunteers, including many county employees who worked that weekend. That is my update for today. Thank you, Commissioners.
That is certainly good news. Now we are going on to Commissioner Communication. I believe Commissioner Savas, you're up first.
Oh, great. Yeah, during our budget meetings we had a few weeks ago with our 10-member budget committee, even though we only had 9 due to one lady having some health issues. But we discussed a number of things, but one of the things in particular I want to point out is that we do have these, as a result of the Supporting Housing Services measure, we have funds available for a shelter or shelters, and I do know our staff are working on, I think, nearing a deadline here with a RFI, request for information, for people perhaps interested in putting up villages, or not villages, but shelters. And we certainly hear from our local law enforcement and public safety responders, first responders that are trying to help people out in crisis. And while we certainly don't have enough housing for everyone, and also a lack of affordable housing for a lot of people, affordable for young families, affordable for all, but also under the definition of affordable housing as results as in the guise of subsidized housing through the Federal Housing Authority. So with that in mind, there's a demand to be able to take people, whether they are, and we heard from even in our hearing, we heard from a business owner who's somewhat plagued, and this is not a new or uncommon or a unique situation, but being plagued with people that are having mental health or drug alcohol treatment or crises in which they don't really have their presence of mind, and they can be very disruptive to businesses and so forth. So we need a number of things, and we talked about even on Tuesday, just the continuing need for mental health, drug, alcohol addiction facilities, but sheltering is a big factor, and if you can stabilize people in some form of transitional shelter where it's temporary and they can transition into something where accessible, we can reach them with services, we can reach them with trying to get them employed, trying to get their mailing addresses. I mean, there's a number of things that transitional shelters are really beneficial to helping people get that lift up. We have an opportunity, and we'll find out when this RFI application period closes whether or not there's anything that is applicable that will meet that particular need. But I think more importantly, with the success of the Veterans Village that we opened in 2018, a transitional shelter for veterans, we've demonstrated that it can be operated correctly. It's not a magnet for any kind of crime. The local neighbors next to the Veterans Village have been not only cooperative, but they also put some of those folks to work. So it's worked out as a win-win. There hasn't really been any issues out over there as far as safety or anything else. So with that model, I think we have a few areas in the county in which we can perhaps look at for siting, a shelter for folks that don't happen to be veterans and that have a connection, residence in Clackamas County. So we discussed, didn't have enough support at the time. We discussed maybe taking a portion of that $32 million. I believe there's $3,500,000 in our LIP associated to earmarked, if you will, for shelters, and perhaps getting a project underway so that we could take some relief away, again, from our first responders and law enforcement, but especially the people, of course, that need the housing. Even including sites that might even offer car camping so that people don't have to camp on the side of a street. They can actually have access to sanitary services, maybe showers and so forth. So there's a lot of great models of that in Lane County, for example. At our Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, for example, we've been discussing this, and we're actually talked about it here a couple weeks ago, and looking at a field trip to try to take some of our local elected leaders, cities, so forth, and county commissioners that are willing to go down to Eugene and look at some of those models and see how simple some of them really are, and how low cost they are. So we launched this effort here for the Veterans Village in 2015 by a budget appropriation of $300,000, I believe, at the time. I think we can do that again. Again, the monies are there, so it's not general fund money. It's really monies that are specifically assigned for this if, again, there's nothing that comes from this RFI that is applicable to meet the need. So I just want to kind of restate that as an interest and a concern, a growing need. And I say that because it was just here a couple days ago. I was driving down the street, and I saw firsthand some emergency responders dealing with some folks that were kind of driving a local business crazy on McLaughlin Boulevard. And they relocated, but they relocated actually yesterday to another site, another business. So it's a constant challenge, and frankly, they're just great candidates for a transitional shelter. So with that said, I do want to just do a shout out to all the volunteers that have done quite a bit to make the Veterans Village happen. We really did that at low cost, and there is a huge community out there that is very generous in offering multiple things, including even building structures, construction materials. We've had tremendous support from the Home Builders Foundation, a number of others that have offered those services. And as an example today, I want to do one shout out to just a recent assistance as an example of that. That helped us with the Vets Village roof on the modulars. These modulars were bought, they were repurposed. They weren't brand new, they were repurposed, and we did a lot of work inside for kitchen facilities, bathrooms, recreation spaces, and rooms for them to receive the services and counseling. But it needed a roof, so I want to just put a shout out to Bliss Roofing, a local business in the Sunnyside area that stepped up to re-roof the commercial structures with donated materials. And I just want to do a shout out to Don Bliss and the team at Bliss Roofing for their outstanding commitment to supporting the Vets Village and its mission, and to all of those who've helped along the way and are still willing to help tomorrow and the day after and then weeks after. So thanks to all of you. Chair, that concludes my comments for today.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
All right, thank you. Well, Commissioner Scholl, you usually do the history updates, but I got one today because Juneteenth is coming up, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about that and the history of it. And Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, where he proclaimed that all slaves in the Confederate States are henceforth shall be free. And this came about 3 years into the Civil War, but enslaved folks weren't automatically freed by the pen, as it couldn't be implemented in places still under the Confederacy. So slavery, for example, still continued in Texas, which was the westernmost Confederate state. But on April 9th, 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, marking the end of the war between the North and the South. So here's the interesting piece. About 2.5 years after Lincoln issued the proclamation, and just over 2 months after the war ended, federal troops from entered Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865. Led by Major General Gordon Granger of the Union Army, these troops arrived to assume control of the state and to guarantee that all enslaved residents were freed. On that day, Granger issued General Order No. 3 to notify Texans of the Civil War's end, to enforce President Lincoln's proclamation and inform the 250,000 enslaved people of their freedom. So today, what we really do is celebrate that this was a date of unique significance. And back then, there was, obviously not the technology or the communication systems we had today. So 2.5 years after we did that, and the fact, folks found out. And so Juneteenth is really acknowledging that piece of history and that fact. And, it's now become, let's see, is it a federal holiday? I know it's a state holiday. I think it's a federal holiday now, as well as a state holiday.
It's not a federal holiday. It's not a federal holiday yet.
It's not a federal holiday yet, but it is a
state
state holiday, and we do here in Clackamas County do that. And today there is a lunch and learn from 12 to 1 here at Clackamas County about Juneteenth, and they will watch. They have a film, share thoughts and questions, and strengthen connections to one another. And there'll be additional learning resources. So just for our staff folks and everybody to know that we are celebrating it, and we're also providing information. But there's another piece of information in a sense that I think is somewhat relevant to how we do things for residents in our county. I wanted to make a point today of really thanking all the appointed boards and commissions that worked on looking at public health for our BIPOC communities. And BIPOC communities are folks, the word means Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It includes Hispanic, Latinx, Asian Pacific Islander, and multiracial communities. And there are things that our residents face on a daily basis that even though we have come a very long way with being anti-discriminatory, there's still things to be done to make sure that in our communities that people of our color have the same experience, particularly when it comes to things like health outcomes. So our ABCs looked at the health outcomes of some of our folks here in Clackamas County, and there have been some significant data points. So this isn't just saying something, it actually gives us some data. For BIPOC residents here in Clackamas County, the average age of death is 67. Other folks have an average die on between 2 to 20 years, later than that. So that's a bit of an issue. One of the things that I think we need to be aware of in that Clackamas County, more Black, Indigenous, and Latinx babies are born with low birth weight than white babies. 8.1% of Black babies born 2010 and 2020 were only low birth weight, while only 5% of others children were that. There's differences in chronic disease. Black and American Indian Alaska Native residents of Clackamas County have a higher rate of chronic lung inflammation. The other thing is that diabetes visits Black and our American Indian Native residents at a higher rate than white residents, asthma, things of that sort, and even access to insurance is different. So I think the point I'm trying to make here, that we have come a long way in this country, and that in our county, we are really dedicated to helping our residents build community and to embrace everybody, no matter what your culture, no matter what your race, no matter where you come from. And what this tells me is moving forward and doing what we have needed to do through over 100 years, that we still have a lot to do to make sure everyone is valued and loved in their community, and that we make sure that our folks, in particular with health issues, have the same kind of access as everyone else. I wanted to mention that because I wanted to truly honor the work that our appointed boards and commissions did in public health to try and pull some of this information together so we have data points that will help us move forward as a county to do what we all agree to, and that is to respect, build community, and make sure everyone in Clackamas County is welcomed and is healthy and is safe. So with that, colleagues, thank you for letting me wax eloquent, and I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you bringing up all these items because they're very important. And by the way, I understand Juneteenth is a federal holiday. Yeah, so we can hang our hat on that as well. Up next is Commissioner Scholl.
Good morning, Clackamas County. On tolling, I would like to commend Senator Bill Kennemer. There's an article, Kennemer denounces I-205 bond funding backed by expected toll revenue. 2 weeks ago, Senator Kennemer decried a party line by the Oregon Legislative Emergency Board that approved $333 million in new bonding debt to pay for the I-205 improvements. And that debt will be paid for by tolling, which 70% of Oregonians oppose. Senator Kennemer went on to say, we should not be charging ahead with new taxes on working class Oregonians who drive at a time when gas prices are at a record high, with no sign of coming down anytime soon, to approve more bonded debt while interest rates are skyrocketing and a recession looming is simply irresponsible. I ask every resident in the county and every business leader to contact their state rep and their state senator, be informed. Look at that article, Kennemer denounces I-205 bond funding, and thank you, Senator Kennemer, for standing up for the people and the businesses of Clackamas County. On K-12 schools, we hear a lot about problems with schools in Oregon. Last night I attended the Estacada School Board meeting, and I can say they're doing a great job out there in Estacada. I encourage every parent to attend their school board meetings to ensure that their child is getting the best education to prepare the student to thrive in a world of ever-increasing economic competition. And I thank everyone in the county who's serving on a school board. It's not easy. On emergency preparedness, the county's new Emergency Preparedness Council met on Tuesday afternoon. The members of this council are motivated, and they're doing a great job to get the county ready to handle any natural disaster. And you can help by reviewing the county website under Disaster Management and learn how you can make your home and your family and your business more prepared. On the climate, tonight at 6:30 to 8 p.m., you can participate in a conversation on climate. Register and attend the meeting at clackamas.us/sustainability/climate action, or you can see the video at that website later on in the week. Technological innovation is the way ahead on climate, not taxation. Weigh in on the topic tonight, please. On drugs, Oregon overdose is up 700% since the passage of Measure 110. Please be aware. Summer vacation is starting. It's a time where young people might be inclined to try something new that they shouldn't be messing with. Please, parents, educate your children on the threat of drugs, and especially fentanyl. On homelessness, thank you, Commissioner Savas, for your comments today on this issue. And I ask people to please take a look at the Clackamas Housing Authority. There's information on the website on the safety off the street projects that we're looking to put together. To do this, we need the help of nonprofits, businesses, churches, and everyone. We cannot just throw money at the problem. We need real solutions, and those solutions will take innovation and the participation of all of us. On the Willamette Falls locks, the new Willamette Falls Locks Commission and Army Corps of Engineers are working to restore the locks to full function to support commerce on the river as well as recreational boating. It's a step in the direction to bring new life to the Willamette Falls area. And at the same time, the people of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde are working to restore the other side of the river, and they need our help. You can learn more about the locks at organsolutions.org and at thegrandronde.org to see what the Confederated Tribes are doing to restore that part of the river. And finally, I'd like to congratulate all the students who are graduating high school this week. Congratulations on your hard work in K through 12. I ask you all to think big, be confident in your abilities to exceed in life, and the best of luck to each of you. And thank you to the parents who have raised such fine young Americans. And finally, enjoy the summer, be smart, be safe, enjoy life. Get out there today and enjoy the sunshine, because tomorrow on the weekend, or Friday, or Saturday, Sunday, it's going to rain again, right on schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Yesterday, there was an event at the Willamette Falls Locks. It was commemorating the work that was done on the Willamette Falls State Commission, transferring the work over to the Willamette Falls State Authority, which was established by the Oregon legislature and now exists as in the Oregon Revised Statutes, of which we will be moving forward with the Corps of Engineers on the repair and opening of the Willamette Falls locks. Last night, I attended a Fair Board meeting out at the Canby Fairgrounds, and those folks are just hopping right along. They just had a hair festival, H-A-R-E festival last weekend. The place was packed. I happened to drive down 99E from Aurora to Oregon City, and I was stuck on with the traffic jam, and I couldn't figure it out until I go by the fair. I've never seen the fairgrounds so packed with people wanting to get in and no parking available. And with that in mind, the Fair Board is looking forward to this third week in August, a very robust fair, huge attendance. They're making plans. They have a new executive director, Brian Crow, who seems to have a lot of energy and moving forward on that. Thank you, Commissioner Scholl, for mentioning the Emergency Preparedness Council, which met, I think, for its second or third time, of which you are on one of the committees. And you are on which committee?
I think I'm on Community Preparedness.
That's an excellent committee. I'm on Communications Committee, and each of our commissioners has a select opportunity to move forward on that. The folks are really excited about that. Last Thursday, after this meeting, all commissioners attended the Memorial Tree Grove dedication ceremony across the parking lot, where the trees were destroyed during the ice storm. Facilities and landscapers have gone in and restored those trees, and we planted 5 new trees in commemorating people who have died while in service to Clackamas County. It was a lovely ceremony, and for me, it made me realize just what is important in life. The Internal Audit Committee met last week, and we discussed the audit on contract administration of all county agencies and departments engaged in contracts when we hire people, when we provide for services, as little as the printer machine. And so we have a little bit of work to do to get everybody on one page on one county, and the contract administration contract review also applies to all of the elected officials in the county who are contracting out. We held our first in-person employee recognition lunch this last week, and it's been about a year and a half, Gary, or 2 years? 2 years since we've had that, and it was a lot of fun. All the commissioners attended that. We had a nice in-person lunch. We honored people who have been working for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and yes, we have a 35-year employee at Clackamas County, and it's just remarkable to me that people want to stay here that long. And it was very nice. It was a lot of fun and enjoyed by all. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.